That is like, that's it for me later. Yeah.
Later.
It is 6 o'clock. Go forward, all right, can you please stand for the pledge of allegiance, and we're done, just stay standing for me, please. So. Got it. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So a little over a week ago, we had our board member Bruce Baker passed, so I'd like to do a quick moment of silence for him. And then we'll proceed with our meeting. Thank you for that. Introduction to guest, Mr. Van Wert, you want to go? You can just read it.
I'm Rocky Van Warmer, retiree.
Signing roll. Okay. Mr. Stone, we have to add anything for you doing that? No, I don't think so. We did great. We can start with this one.
We made it. Great.
I guess would be application. Some of the posts.
Decide which one. I'll go with the long version. We've had this back and forth with Chiloquin High School over the years of we're coming there and you need to bring your admins and you know, you're coming over here, bring yours, we'll bring ours. The parents, always after any competition have had concerns. There've been some ejections from games and some unsportsmanlike conduct between the athletes on the courts or on the field. Ruben and I, the principal of Chiloquin, had a long couple of phone conversations over the weekend before the last football game, or how we want to move forward with what we're doing currently and what we want to do different. And one of the things we decided on was that when we went over there, they would host a dinner for our athletes and their athletes. And so what we did was we decided to put 4 of their athletes at a table with 4 of our athletes, and some of their coaches and faculty at a table with our coaches and faculty, and then us. And so we invited parents to bring things and participate. Some of their parents served, some of our parents helped serve, brought things. They were incredible hosts and models of sportsmanship and team culture. By the end of the dinner, our kids were wanting to walk down the street to the store with their kids, exchanging numbers, seeing each other as kids and real people. I took some things away from Ruben and Chiloquin, and we found it, we have a connection from the past, but overall, building that bridge together was probably one of the best parts of this school year for me. That's pretty awesome. No objections, no fights.
Only one. Unfortunately. Instead of 7. Yeah, it was a win. It was good. It really was good. That's the first time I've ever seen Chiloquin actually pick up our kids off the ground after the tackle, and our kids reciprocated. It was pretty fantastic. My good to great is you know, and other people can relay this, but for me, it's the details that goes into the people, the support of people to pull off the veteran celebration. Our front office staff, Jessica, Lacey, Sandra, they worked their butts off to pull that off. And even so much that they come in on the weekend, and so that we had a place for competition. We had a food science competition with FFA, and they needed to use space in the gymnasium around the facility and use tables, and Peyton threw in some help and support to try to set up after that competition. And the decorating, the little minutia things that go with the decorating, from the door decorating to our elementary staff and art room, creating banners and pieces of art. Just absolutely phenomenal. And that we absolutely could not pull it off without the support of the support staff that we have. And it was fantastic again this year. So really felt blessed that we have the team that we have and people that are willing to go above and beyond when asked. And it's gotten to the point to where now it's part of the culture. We don't ask, they just know that this is what we do and who we are. So it's pretty special.
Mine's on Veterans Day, I think it's awesome. Sad note, somber note to do it is the group of veterans is a bit smaller. As you go through, which is why it makes it important. And I really appreciate that. And as a veteran, the second would be great. Sherry put in another audit, looks good. Let's get the rest of the day, but that's a lot of work by itself. So thank you for that.
Yeah, my really great would be the audit report. I know there's a lot of work to do with this. The picture of those things to guide. Those things you really maintain properly. Sure, puts a lot of work in the rack. Add it on the back, really sweet.
Mine is, the Veterans Day, it's not just the celebration, because I didn't get to go. But just driving by the school, how good it looks outside. driving by.
The flags
Yes.
adds a lot.
I have two. So the first one was a couple of the kids that went to the FFA National Convention. Two of those 4 kids, I never thought I would see it in person. So when I saw pictures, I was so excited to see those 2 kids involved in something so good and structured for them. So it was pretty awesome to see. And then Veterans Day celebration was great. I didn't get to go, but my kid came home and told me that she was so moved by the celebration that she wants to serve our country.
Oh,
I was so, it was like, oh.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, it's pretty cool. Well done.
My good to great is the FFA food science competition for the region. It felt really good to know that we were hosting all of those school districts to come here and have this, robust experience. And I got to judge part of the competition, and knowing that Peyton was really sweating it that she might have too many talented people and not enough slots for state. It was pretty
Okay, high five, we have students here that care from last month, but they might return us over next month. And teacher input, and some teachers in the audience, community input. Thanks for that. And we'll move on to board position 2.1, appointment and oath of office.
I will nominate Simon Rose for a chief slot.
And for the motion, second. Motion to debate.
Yeah, so. I'll just kind of, because it's kind of. I'm disagree with that. Have a problem with it. I feel like it's reassembling the past board. And the past board, but obviously past administration. And I'm not really interested in that. So I have to look about reassembling that board or heading that direction, whatever. It makes it three of the old ones at that point. And considering all the stuff that we've been through with the school over the years, lots of years. He's always still showed up and supported. Do it all. That's just, and considering it still increases. See, I gotta do what I think you want. So, I would not make that.
The nomination for office or something.
I would just like to, add some nuance. Perspective. I am not sure how much longer I'm gonna be able to do this. And I'm hoping to talk to you to come back and take the place. And I don't know about whether Simon will try again, maybe. But I'm not, I think Rocky will. And it's getting to the point that I can't get in this building and out of this building without law. And it's not gonna get any better. And I told Day at one point here a couple of months ago, when it gets to the point that I cannot do the job. And not going to occupy it, not do the job. I can't make half or more of the old things that are going on at the school anymore. And we're still going to have to call it good and let it go. And we've got two really good candidates here. And we'll still have a name too. In future day. Yeah, that was a very good point. Rocky was a good man. I appreciate Rocky and all of these done for this school. Simon's a good man and I appreciate all of his things. It's hard to do. Yeah. Thank you. And
But who put that administration?
well, there were people besides the three of us. And they were on the,
Well, yeah. But it takes three.
the current. The problem child, and I'm not gonna look at the name. I was not on this group. I had resigned about. And wrote numerous text messages to several people. And we gave them my concern of what was going on there. It didn't great, but do that as great. I think we got two viable candidates out there. I don't think they both wind up on this. When it comes to me.
Mr. Hayden, I will vote yes. Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Oh, wait, oh, we didn't have a second.
Ms. Williams? Ms. Baker?
Well,
Ms. Rhodes?
Yes, I believe yes.
Simon, welcome to the board. You will come up and take your seat. You should have the oath of office in front of you to sign. Changing up the agenda, just look up if we have acuity, the audit people standing by, to 6.4 to. That forward. Corey, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me? I was just waiting to hear my name. I could hardly hear you. But you can hear me okay?
We can hear you just fine.
Okay, good. Thanks for letting me be remote. I'm in the Dalles tonight. Luckily the weather's good, so it was a little windy getting here, but I will start with the good news. Audit went great. If Sherry hadn't shared that already, everything looked wonderful. Once again, we were there in early August, and that's a testament to how great your books are and how good your business office staff does. What a great job they do of getting ready and keeping things ready throughout the year. We don't have any audit adjustments. I think I tell you that most years. The reason I bring it up is because you're making decisions based on those monthly financials that you get and projections that you're receiving from your business office. And it's important to know that they're accurate. So what we see at audit is that there wasn't there wasn't any need to make any audit adjustments. So that means your data was accurate as we received it and as you're receiving it. So I think that's really good news. Oregon requires us to look at multiple things, budget compliance, public contracting, that sort of thing. And there were no issues with anything this year, so no findings in that regard. And then your one big change this year, lucky Sherry, you got to do a federal compliance audit. This really was driven from the Stronger Connections grant. And so what that means from an audit standpoint is that we just have to look over controls related to the federal programs. The government wants to make sure not only that you're spending the money as they want you to and as you say you're going to, but that you have controls over that money so that if something went awry, that you would find it and catch it and fix it. And so it's a two-pronged thing they want us to look at. So in doing that, I looked at the Stronger Connections grant and at your child nutrition programs. And the nice thing about child nutrition for you guys is you are a community eligibility provision district, which means a lot of the hardcore testing that has to happen with eligibility and did kids get dropped from the lists and all of that doesn't have to happen because kids are just eligible. And so that made that program a lot easier to test. Things looked great. There was no issue. With Stronger Connections, this was a new grant, so I was a little worried, but Sherry, I just have to tell you, I was so impressed with the documentation. Everything that I needed, she not only had, but she had it in about 2 minutes. So she had it ready, which tells me everything was already organized and ready to go. And she just had to pull what I was asking for. So I walked in with a list of about 10 things that I said, I need this and this and this and this and this. And ta-da, I had it by the time I got back to the desk I was working at. So that is really great. A lot of times I get deer in the headlight stares when I ask for certain grant reports or review of this or that. And so she just, all of it was there. All of it had been reviewed. It was really, really great. So it's more stress for Sherry when we have to do this, but at the same time, she handled it really well. So no audit findings from the federal perspective either, which is fantastic in one where you haven't had that in a long time. So the one couple things that I wanted to bring to your attention, if you looked really closely at that audit book on the very last page, it talks about the results of the federal audit. And that's just a whole new section that they require. At the very bottom of that page, it says you're not low risk. And a lot of times people kind of panic when they see that. The reason that you're not low risk is because you haven't had a single audit in years. So you have to have had one for 2 years in a row to be able to even be considered low risk. And you guys are cash basis. You have to be GAAP basis to also be low risk. So all that means is it means we have to test 40% of your federal expenditures instead of just 20%. It's not a ding on the district in any way, but I do know sometimes people kind of have a little bit of heartburn about that. So it's not that anything was wrong or we thought anything was wrong. That's just the federal guidelines that tell us how much of your federal programs we have to test. Not a bad thing that we test a little more. I mean, it is what it is. And then let's see, I had one other note for myself. Oh, there was a question from a board member about the investment policy disclosures. I'm getting in the weeds a little bit, sorry, but and the easy answer on that question is we can always tweak that language. The point of the concentration of credit risk is that we say the district does not have a formal policy that places a limit on the amount that may be invested in any one insurer. So what that's saying is you guys have the freedom that your policy says, as long as it's in a line with state statutes, you can invest it. And right now you just have 100% in LGIP. And so that disclosure is just saying you haven't put any limit on yourself as to where you could invest as long as it's in line with state guidelines. Most people just obviously keep it in LGIP, but if you wanted to, you could place it elsewhere. And occasionally we see that happens, very, very rarely. So we can always tweak that language next year if you would want a little more clarity around that. But that is just saying you haven't put any caps on yourselves as far as where things will go. Was there a question? Did I do a good job of that?
Yeah, I think it's good. It was my question, and it just came down to, does it look bad to us that we don't have a formal policy limiting where we can have it? Because just the way it was addressed, it was neutral, it seemed like.
Yeah.
Or not against, and that was just why I brought it up.
And so that's a really good question. I think the right answer would be to tweak the policy, to tweak the disclosure a little bit. So it says you have a policy in place that governs investments, and that that you don't limit it. So just to update it so it does reflect that you actually do have a policy that addresses this. It just doesn't place the limit. And so I think adding a little bit of language around that is a good idea. But yeah.
Well, thank you.
So Sherry and I will try and remember that in our next year's meeting. So did anybody else have any questions?
The only other question I have is the federal audit, is that because we broke the threshold or because we have that federal grant?
It is because you went, sorry, that's a great question. It's because you went over $750,000 of federal expenditures. The limit for 25-26 fiscal year goes up to $1 million. So you guys were at 843,000. So probably not going to be an issue again, but with that Stronger Connections grant, your federal funding is higher. So it's one of those blessing and curse things, right? It's nice to have the additional funding, especially for that program. It's a neat program. But then you also have that string that comes along with it. So I don't think for 25-26 it'll be something that we have to repeat. So Sherry's shaking her head. Nope.
Any other questions?
I actually have one. So the federal audit is determined by the amount of expenditures within that threshold. So does that change if, like, is there a time frame? Like, so if we never spend that, but do they say every so many years you still have to go through a federal audit regardless?
They don't actually, and we have lots of school districts that are always just right under that limit and don't have to go through it. So, yeah. That's a great question.
Well,
And
thank
as Oregon requires that we look at grant funding. So we will look at different things, but recently they've wanted us to focus on SIA. So that's kind of been the one because it's their big dollars that are coming through. So even if you don't have a federal audit, we're still looking at grant programs. It's just not as in depth.
Just a quick comment, just to say thank you. Appreciate
Of course.
the follow through and the thoroughness that you guys tacked this with, and the communication piece of it has been large for us. And so thank you very much.
Yeah. You're a pleasure to work with.
Thank you, and thank you for your time for reporting tonight. We appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for letting me be remote.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
So we just have to vote to accept the audit, right? So is there a motion?
Motion to accept the audit.
6.3. Adam makes the motion to.
And second the motion.
Motion, the second to accept the question. Hearing none, we will start with Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Ms. Williams. Ms. Baker. Mr. Williams.
Yes.
And I also.
You can just call me.
Oh, I forgot about Mr. Rose.
Good job, Sherry.
And now moving on to consent motions, 8.1. I don't believe we have anything.
No, correct.
Motion to accept the consent.
To move to approve the consent motion 3.1 as written.
Motion for a second. Second, questions and debate.
Another good job.
We will start with Ms. Baker. Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Vote yes, Mr. Rose.
Yes.
Mr. Rose. And superintendent's report.
Okay, I get to talk about budget tonight, and, since there's some public documents that are floating around the state and having some conversations about, massive cuts and hysteria, attempting to, figure out what school district's gonna do, like San Kaiser District, over a $50 million shortfall in their budget, Portland Public speaking to large numbers as well. Smaller districts, even in Jackson County, are talking about budget cuts and the fiscal cliff that the state is worried that is going to happen based on the economic forecasts that we initially have right now. We have another economic forecast that's coming out on the 18th next week. I'm going to be having some conversations with more clarity as to what we're looking at as a state, as far as the state budget's concerned. Of course, nothing can be cut without legislative action. Legislature doesn't come back into session until February. And so there's a process that will go with this that and there'll be some hard decisions. There'll be some plotting of special interest and power and control and political strong arming when it's all said and done of where we end up as a state. That being said, ODE has come out with some recommendations for districts to look at program budgets. And there's several things on it, but the big pools of money that they're talking about that's been put out there publicly through SBA, through the Oregon Department's website, and that's public knowledge, is cutting smart program, just to start, making a Reader Today program, and then the budgetary piece of that. They're looking at, they think FFA should be potentially impacted with budgets, all STEM projects, which we have a STEM hub at the ESD that supports so many different activities in our school districts. That would be a crisis. I think FFA would be a huge crisis, especially in rural Oregon, that is going to hit a wall that hopefully there'll be some people that are willing to take that fight to Salem. All promise grants, which we don't really have any promise grants that are directly linked here, but there is some promise money that the ESD plays with that helps us with some dual credit access, some grow your own programs with teachers, which we have a couple of staff members that are working on getting their teacher credentials. And then the last one was Mathways, which is a crosswalk between CTE and math, and there's some funding, some districts that have applied for some grant money from the state. It's a state grant that helps with being able to offer math in a CTE environment. So those are some big pools of money. So I've just kind of, this kind of kept me up at night a little bit, just thinking about our own district, thinking about where we're at financially, and after thinking about it and then kind of problem solving with Sherry, having conversations with Greg and looking at our programs. Obviously, we want to protect the programs and the effort that we've put to build something here that's special. I mean, we're working on 4 programs of study. The last thing we want to do is cut a program of study or cut some viable program that has an employee that benefits kids attached to it. And so trying to protect those things, the best way to protect them is to, full force, go out with full force, talk about this is a destination district. These are the comprehensive programs that we offer, and increase our enrollment. If as a decreasing enrollment district, which we're fairly static right now to slightly decreasing, it really cuts in hard with butts and seats and how we're paid. And in a declining budgetary environment in the state, if we can offset that with increased enrollment, we can survive pretty easily. So there's some plans, and you'll hear a little bit about that today, about some non-negotiables that Greg will talk about during his report. But the reality is this: we may have to right size our budget. The state is saying, look, it's gonna be a 2.5 to 5% cut at the fiscal cliff, which is the second year of the biennium. Which 2.5% that's a pretty good chunk of money. That's a couple $100,000 for our district, which linked to people and linked to programming is tough to overcome. You can't cut that many pencils and, store that much paper. So it's linked to programs. So we have to be creative with that. And so my challenge to Sherry and to Greg and our administrative team is to say, okay, look, what do we do now? What can we do right now to right size our budget and slow down our expenditures, tighten our belt on the budget that we currently have to help with rollover, to help with our budgetary process of what this looks like during year 2 of the biennium and trying to save as much money. I pulled that line of reasoning directly from Ray Williams. So just saying. So a case in point is this, that we're looking at some options. And we're not gonna cut anybody. There's no cuts on the table. We're just gonna look to right size budgets through the end of the year and see if we can tighten it up and save enough money that conservatively, as we roll over and we know that there's gonna be a cut from the state, we already have cuts in early literacy, cuts in SIA funding. We have cuts in high school success and Measure 98 already. So we can weather those, but we need to tighten some of our soft budget things and some of our trips. I'll give you an example. The general fund, in the past, if we had 12 girls out for basketball, we had 2 coaches. And so we're gonna right size that and just say, you know what, look, if we don't have 2 teams, you're gonna have 1 coach. And so I've just made that executive decision that's how we're gonna tackle some of that with athletics. At the same token, we are expanding options, like wrestling for kids. So we've spread some of it out. At the end, it's gonna be a net gain if we make some decisions around, how we staff our coaches, our sports programs, but it's not just sports. There's lots of other things too that we're looking at. But we'll essentially have a couple of different plans of how we can right size through the end of the year. And if it's not a need, it's a want. The answer is probably going to be a no moving forward through the end of the year to try to pull in whatever we can so that we can help with rollover dollars. So that's really the heart and soul of my presentation or my report tonight. There's a lot of other things that are going on. I have some ideas around increasing enrollment and there's this philosophy, and I'll share it with you very quickly. When the philosophy of recruitment or philosophy of decision-making is built like this, and everybody makes a decision at the top of the house, decisions get missed. And we don't build capacity with the people that have the ability to lead. We don't build capacity with the people of our community. We have to be able to move that to where it's this way. And so there's an extended group of people that can make decisions that are an extension of the superintendent's desk, an extension of our school board, an extension of our community that can say, hey, I can vouch for that school district. I can vouch for that FFA program. I'll vouch for what Kevin Frisen's doing in the construction tech area in that building. I'll vouch for what that board is doing right now with budgetary constraints and being creative and supporting teachers through contract and renewing contracts and all those kinds of things. Those are all part of being part of a comprehensive district, a destination district, a place where people can call home and come and be part of something great. It cannot happen if the only people that make the decisions around here are in this room. It has to come from people that will vouch for what the people in this room are doing. With policy, with budget, with programs, with people, with evaluation, with supervision, with all the things that a comprehensive destination district has. We're going to be working on a board breakfast on Friday, and I'm super excited to share with you comprehensive planning and the process to go through comprehensive planning so that this district's bigger than me. Because if it's just about me at the top and I leave for whatever reason, I die of a heart attack tomorrow, and we don't have a comprehensive plan, we don't have some things put in place that involves more countless people at the top, then we falter and we fail. And so one of the ways that we can do that is to encourage parents to be involved. And there was a football coach, I told you it would only take a minute, it's gonna take me 5 minutes. And this guy, he's in the Hall of Fame, his name's Ad Rutschman, he coached for 44 years at Linfield College. He's an absolute football god as far as football coaching was concerned. And when I was a young man, he left an impression on me as a young football and basketball coach. I went to his coaching clinic and he talked about appealing to kids' self-esteem by making them feel good. And that motivates all kids. All kids. Doesn't matter if you were a high school player that your high school football coach spit in your face, or there was another high school football player from a different school that the football coach never even raised his voice at you. If you appeal to a kid's self-esteem, guess what? You make them feel good about what they're doing. They'll start to believe, they'll start to trust, they'll start to involve themselves in a level that you can be successful. And my point is this: if we do that with our parents, where parents have a say, where parents have a voice, where parents feel good about what we're doing, then we have a chance to increase our enrollment, because parents speak. Parents can vouch for what we're doing. Parents can say, hey, I know what we're doing in science. Hey, you know that health curriculum? I was part of that. I know what the school board adopted for the health curriculum, and that changes the paradigm to this. And parents being involved, feeling good about what we're doing, they talk to community members, they talk to their neighbors, they talk to their families. And it's not long, those families, those community members, their neighbors start sending their kids to Prospect. And that's how we increase enrollment here. And so that's the press. That's how we're gonna attack this. And we're gonna do it by sending messages home that are positive about kids. And we're gonna flood them. We're gonna flood parents with this. Every staff member is gonna send a note home every day of good things that are going on in our school, so that they don't have any option but to hear that there's great things that are happening here. And then hopefully that will multiply with parents that get to hear this. You know, you think about this, we have 220 kids in our district, K-12, and we have 20 staff members or 25, maybe we throw in some classified folks that send notes, administration as well. One kid a day, 25 kids a day, times 4, 100 kids a week, 400 kids a month, 9 months. That's 3,600 contacts over the course of a year. And I can't help but think that would make a huge impact on parents that wonder about, what's that Prospect School District about? What's that science class, that math class? What is it about Mr. Bryant that makes him special? Oh, well, I got a note about a kid that Mr. Bryant talked to. I know about Mr. Bryant. I can vouch for him because he sent me this note, and I trust the people that are working with my kids. That's what it means to become a destination district. And so that's kind of the plan that we're gonna work on. I'm fired up about it, because I know you can't tell, but I'm fired up about it. I think it's gonna be fun, and I think it's a way to transform our district. We don't have boundaries. We have all these programs. There is not another 1A school in the state of Oregon that has 4 budding CTE programs of study. Not one. Eagle Point doesn't have 4. We have 4 that we're working on. And that's a value. We have a 4-day school week. That's a value. Parents want flexibility for their kids. Parents want a voice. Let's give them one. That's it.
And leave that second one.
The second Wednesday.
Okay, Mr. Brown, middle school, high school curriculum.
All right, the weather report's up at the top. You can always tell it's November and Prospect and the way it trades in its cowboy hat for slightly warmer cowboy hat. And I'll skip down to the 5-day forecast of rain, and one brief moment of sunlight on Friday. That will immediately become a Facebook post from the Cape Bridge. All right,
I think that's Scotland.
Spelled it wrong.
I did. PE.
I can tell you don't live in.
Oh, you can tell.
He drives across it every day.
Who signed?
Regardless of the don't stop on.
Some of these things I left in from last month when we didn't get to it. So started an attendance probation system. I pulled kids who were below 80 at this point, running this in beta. I created an algorithm and made a spreadsheet with some formulas that bumps up their, so if you're at 65%, next week you may be required to be here 71% of the time to meet your growth goal. So instead of smacking them upside the head with, hey, 100% or 91%, whatever it might be, let's talk about budgeting time. Let's talk about what you need to be here during this time of day. Let's talk about some of the things you're doing and set a goal for how many periods a week. So if a student has 25 class periods a week, their growth goal for the first week might be 16 periods. What are you gonna do to make 16 periods? And then over the course of a month, and we're at that point now, it's over 91% attendance that they should be at. So meet with them on Mondays. I check their attendance on Synergy, plug the number of periods they made the class into the spreadsheet, and it tells me whether or not, it tells them whether or not they met their growth goal when I talk to them. So there's it kind of follows that privilege follows responsibility piece where some students who haven't met their growth goal wouldn't be eligible for extracurricular activities during that week. It goes week to week because during the week that they're ineligible, they may be in class, and have exceeded their goal. And so the next week they would be eligible. So that would remove things that we've already have, that would mean things that we already have in place, like you may not be able to attend the dance. You may not be able to travel with, Project Youth Plus to a field trip that week. If you haven't met your goal. So the first week, 12 out of 13 students met their goals. And then right now we're at 10 out of 13, and 2 of those students have circumstances that are beyond school barriers that we're currently working in a group effort to remove. So just the student getting the feedback and knowing where they stand, and having some idea and being involved in their own problem solving in this has worked fairly well. There's still bugs and kinks to work out. And then managing this is another question. If it gets up over 14 students, how can we work as a team to work on that? But so far, it gives them a clear goal for the week. They know how much they have to attend. They identify the barriers in their way and come up with solutions to being in class more periods than what they were last week. I don't know how many of you guys have heard about enrichment. I put some information on enrichment. I won't read through the entire thing. If you guys have questions, you can ask me. If you look at the back of this paper, there's kind of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 point 5 points that I wanted to make, 5 things I wanted to hit with doing enrichment. So it's not just happy fun time, hang out and do stuff. There's a purpose behind it, and I made sure that the faculty that are involved in this understand these principles on the back here. The feedback from this, I didn't memorize it word for word, but I did get emails and texts from folks who are very appreciative to establish a relationship outside of that, academic student-teacher hierarchy. They're enjoying the time that they spend with kids. They're getting to know kids. Kids are seen. Kids are active in sharing passions and things they like with adults here. So far from what I can see, it's been a positive action endeavor. I have a group of 6 young men that played Miss Coincidence with me on enrichment day. And last time we were together, I finally got him organized enough to get him through a peace song. And worked quite a while with Ben Little on the drums. So they were all just goofing around at first, but then, you know, just give them a little guidance and organization, and they accomplished something that they were pretty proud of. So those things were going on. I think we have kind of like a textile arts, ceramics, board games, role play games, music, paracord, and then hopefully finding a place for this to expand. All right, and then non-negotiables, rolling out non-negotiables. I'll go into a little bit of detail on what Dave was talking about students being seen and praised. And so rolling this out intentionally, ramping it up as we go along. Some of the backstory on 3 and 4 is I've been in rooms weekly on a rotating schedule that I've set myself up with so that I can be in rooms and observe 15 to 20 minutes longer if need be. And there's some things that I've picked and pulled out of that would help us engage students better and make the jobs of faculty more of a pleasure. So first, one of the things that we're going to enroll is every student is seen and greeted at the door by name. Right, so a lot of our student behaviors, some of them you can pinpoint to at least need a little bit of attention and need to be seen and noticed. So that's in there, and then in here I won't read this whole thing. I've just given props to some folks who are doing this consistently, and it does make a difference. And I also put down how we plan to support this. So in this one is modeling presence, assisting with transitions, and supporting staff and establishing these as consistent routines. So that would mean that I hit rooms and do the same thing that I'm asking folks to do. 2 is what Dave was talking about, positive contact home each day for at least one student that you cross paths with. Trying to come up with, I was trying to work out a Cougar, Bobcat, CATS acronym for this. And it wasn't perfect, and we can ask him about that, how I feel about being perfect on that. Right now, my tentative name is Prospect Props. So this will be, I pulled the old redirect form from Google Forms that we used for misbehavior. And so I'm reprogramming that so that it populates mail merges with kind of a postcard type sheet that will go home in the email. Those will all come to me, and I'll grab students that I think have shown a lot of growth or have been super courageous and done something out of their comfort zone. Will formally recognize those students in public and post them out on boards. So that's academics, attendance, behavior, social, extracurricular things like that. So I'll kick that out soon. I was putting finishing touches on it this afternoon. So yeah, I've done all that down there below. Every lesson begins with a clear purpose and a visible success criteria. One of the things I've noticed recently about students in class is they're striving to do the best that they can, and oftentimes they don't have a criteria and they don't see what success looks like. So that's a piece that we're coaching and working on. What does success look like? And to me, that means that you've planned on what success looks like before you begin a lesson with a student, when they have a process where they get to cut their teeth on a new concept, and then a couple opportunities during the week to show and see what they're made of, and that allows the teacher in the classroom to make adjustments so that by the time they get to a project or what we're calling a summative assessment that carries a lot of weight, there's nothing new on that they haven't seen before. They're prepared to tackle it, and they get a boost of confidence knowing what they're doing with that. So one of the examples in walking around and observing places is our shop teacher, Kevin Friesen, does very well with that, showing students what success looks like and working them up in small chunks until they're ready to execute a quality piece of work. And so, hey, we've offered planning, co-planning support, mapping, aligning things, and working on rubrics since mid-year last year, and so we're continuing to put finishing touches on that and support that. One of the things I'm offering for support to folks after conferences this week, next week is I'm making myself available. If somebody needs me to come alongside them during a prep time or a time scheduled outside of when they're not giving instruction, I've offered to come alongside them and help them with this process, streamline it, make it easy and make their lives a lot easier. And then the fourth one is we're gonna focus on grading for learning and feedback and not compliance. So another piece I noticed and had conversations with students who have been frustrated, and that's in the grade book, if you have students here, it's the 10, 20, 70 system where the little things that they do for practice or, and participation would be worth 10% of their grade, and their checks for understanding 20, and then their final assessments or projects would be worth 70% of their grade. So the idea of that system is to give them a chance to collect information, use that information to do some higher level thinking with it, and then give feedback to students and preparing them for their final thing. Again, Kevin has done really well structuring that with his rubrics and his grades. And so I have been working on kind of a little walkthrough guide for people to use. So designing assessments, working backwards, using the reporting tools in their grade book, finding places where people need more assistance with that, consistency across courses, and aligning them to their plans and their clear purpose and their success criteria. And that's all I have. There's no questions on it.
Yeah.
Well, I missed.
Yeah,
Okay, the special project book report.
Okay, you started off as I really don't feel like I'm gonna be close. So, I have two things on my, one of them is, part of my job is to be a part of attendance committee and we go over where Greg has the opportunity to work with kids one-on-one and be really targeted. What we're doing is looking at the overall, the information from the state, how can we do things, why improve that. And mostly, I just wanted to say, this is amazing. The poster on the left, and you don't have to be able to read the poster, just look at the colors. The poster on the left is our attendance data from last school year. This is the poster we made for open house, put out there so parents could be aware of where we're at. Anything that's not green, the state is concerned about. Anything that's red, they're really, really concerned about. If you look at the poster on the right, that is the first quarter of this year. There's 0 red. And there is a tremendous amount of green. So that means anything that's green means those kids, that grade level, the kids as a whole are here 90% or more of the days of the school year so far. Yeah, it's looking really good. We have the judges pulled up the data. We're in the meeting. We should look at this, and I'm like, wait, stop! This isn't little. This is really big, and it's nice to see.
How does this get factored in for like juniors and seniors who might be working or may not have a full class load? Does that get weighted?
It considers yes, it considers if they only have 3 class periods, are they here for those 3 class periods? Yeah. So we do not get dinged if our kids are our students are only enrolled for what they need. Okay.
Now, there's 2 different things that you've got a student that is here 90% of the time, one student, but you might have another student that's here 10% of the time. How do you rate those 2 different factors in that?
So this would be just averages for the whole grade level. So the grade level is here.
So you still have 1 or 2 sometimes that are down below.
And the way, yes. And so when we think about that in the attendance committee, that's kind of where that very specific thing Greg is doing. Think about it in 3 layers. So what are we doing? Here's tier 1. What are we doing for all kids to encourage them? Well, we're focusing on having engagement in class. is bringing the best teaching possible. What are we doing for kids who are having a problem? If we push that kid over, they're gonna be in the green. And that might look like, last year we tried the no tardy card, right? We're gonna reward positive behavior, we're gonna reach out to kids and make connection. We're gonna identify the students who just need that little bit more. Your tier 3 for those kids that are gone for 80% of the time, or I'm sorry, they're only here 80% of the time or less. And most of those kids are gonna have really big things going on. They don't stop coming because it's optional to come out. As a committee, we have committed to the fact that we're not gonna harass a kid who's on a 504 for a health concern. And why aren't you coming to school? That's not a purpose. We know why they're not coming to school and they're doing the best. Sometimes life is good with you. The state doesn't listen to that. We're still gonna get dinged for it. But we're supporting our students by considering everything's going on for them, especially our tier 3 kids, when it's really specific. Really specific to individuals, and that's the great work that Greg is doing by meeting with kids, problem solving, identifying specifically what's going on, and providing them with steps to make solutions.
So we've heard a lot about 504, so what they do and what they don't do and stuff like that. If you take away, or if you, I guess if you add the 504, what you're talking about, does that change?
That's
Is it too
included.
much?
Nope, that's included in that information that we have right there.
Gotcha, okay.
It's just that we aren't targeting that as we have to solve this situation. The situation is solved.
Has there been any feedback from Student Success Agency about engagement from our students directly?
It just got started about a month ago.
Right.
And so I don't have a direct answer for that, but I can look into it and see what.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what kind of engagement they're having from our school in general.
That's a really great question, and I will take that back to the PD.
And that's why people was hoping to get sent out to parents, students, like, I caught a little bit of it when it first came out. But then it just like, it had a sign on the line, and it's like, okay, here's another form, are we signing this one, and what are we doing with this one, right?
Yeah.
You can send it back, without, hey, here are the resources available for your student. For this.
I think that'd be valuable to get out to parents, just because I know the value in it.
Right.
And the students know the value in it, but maybe most parents don't know the value in it. So if they're informed again of what it can provide, who knows, there might be a coin flip that might happen.
Sure, absolutely. Any other questions on Tony? I have one other thing to share with you folks. I got to go to the Roadway to Wellbeing, which was really cool. It was put on by Road Community Health. And this is going to show that I've lived in Oregon all of my life. One of the former Oregon governors was part of the family they had. The former governor was there, and a couple of bigwigs in healthcare, plus the head of the union for nursing and all that. And there's the panel. And in breakout rooms, we got to pick what we were most interested in. For me, it was World Health, obviously. And it was really gratifying when one of the people from, I get it right, Oregon Health and Science University, he's talking about needing a pipeline and building this. And who's never in the room? K-12 education. And I went, excuse me. And because I did that, I ended up, it's a certain extent being the belle of the ball. Everybody wanted to talk to me, all of the people who had grants for nonprofits and building pipelines and can't brainstorm this. So there's some neat opportunities coming out of this. Sometimes to building that grant and going for from school, some partnering in other ways that related to health. And it was just kind of nice to process.
Thank you. Any questions? Any financial questions?
The financial statement for October 30th, revenue side of things, not a lot of change. You'll see the property tax turnovers and for the November 30th statement. We have two transfers come in, since the beginning of November. And then the other thing to note is the seismic grant, that kind of thing was a this looks much better and much back in line instead of the negative up there as far as our cash balances. As far as expenditures go, the current year is in line with where it should be. The contrast to last year was we had the facility expenses for 70,000 that raised, outside expenditures were almost 470,000. Compared to last year's numbers. Other than that, just state school fund and the rate revenue, and then with all of their seismic money back in, then our local as well, with our monthly interest will start going up again too, just because the balances are all built back up and to where they have been previously. Other than that, we received, that will be reflected in November as well, the generators. That funding was received, so that will reflect it next month, and so that project moving forward. Yes, those funds came in. And as Dave mentioned, you know, starting discussions, starting projections, different scenarios, looking at budgets and forecasts and things like that. Grant work continues, budget narrative were submitted, and upgraded program budgets. Resubmitting those as far as what numbers look like for the next 2 years into that plan. The procurement review is moving on, all the documentation is submitted, and today now with the specific requests and source documents. So not will continue to work. Other than that, we have a ton going on. I did attend the spoke conference last week. Dr. Williams spoke. There was a quiz update. Your Phyllis superintendent spoke, which was very good. And there was breakout sections with HR law and just different payroll track aspects. The no track. That was good to attend. On the first front, public hearing is, you know, for the next biennium 27-29 rates should stay pretty consistent, other than the credit we received from SB 849 for that 1.68%. We know we're going to have that for 27-29, but unless you had a side account, which for board members, if you see this in the news, the district did not have a side account. So that means, you know, we're not in situations in other districts that are out there that previously did those side accounts that are coming in field. Other than that, is new board members or existing board members, send out reminders again, safe schools back to the training, our mandatory reporters. You do have to take the training annually, so just watch for those. And then also, there's some cyber security and email stuff that we just require just through insurance for anybody using your email system. So I think you have 3 courses. So just a reminder, if you can get those completed, would be great. Is there any questions on the financials or the payables? And then budget committee vacancies, we can probably maybe discuss more under the budget committee policy that comes up. But we do have 2 open positions. I'm going to set up the guidelines as far as what they can advertise and put it in the plan.
Yeah, just quickly, classified substitutes. We hired Julie Ripples, classified substitute. Christina Weber resigned. We hired her on, and then something came up. She got another job, and so she sent in a resignation. Extra duty contracts. We ended up hiring Dustin Thompson as our middle school boys head basketball coach. Jesse Little as our high school girls head basketball coach, and then accepted the resignation of Ann Hanson as our head volleyball coach, high school volleyball coach. And we interviewed and have offered, this will be next month too, have offered the head wrestling, high school wrestling position to John Gallo. Yeah.
side, rehire last year.
Yeah.
Come up 5.1, rest of the facilities.
Just quickly, Corey is working on, he has pulled the plans, he's working on what we need to file for permits. Doesn't look like we're gonna have to have a building permit, looks like we're gonna have to have electrical and mechanical, to remodel the upstairs of the, or finish the upstairs, I should say, in the shop building, in the construction tech building, the doors, foundation building. We have written a letter, and we have a group of parents that are actively fundraising. There is a whole bunch of things that are happening there. There's a lot of people that are willing to give in-kind time, with electrical services, with helping with sheetrock and insulation. We have, in the comments, we have a whole bunch of insulation that's left over from a couple of projects that we can use to insulate the roof. Drop ceiling is not in the make, and we don't think that that's the best way to go. The best way to go is just to insulate it and sheetrock it. And then we have extra LED lighting from some other projects as well. So we have some materials that will really help offset the expense of that. But everybody that's willing to give financially to it wants to have a dollar now. So Corey's working on that. That's taking a little bit of time, but I fully anticipate that it's not going to be a 3-month project. It's going to take some time, but we're starting it, and we're doing it on the backs of community volunteers and people who are passionate about wrestling and they want to support the program. So pretty exciting. Just an update.
Question? And 5.2 Carter.
So just kind of looking at the different programs, I've moved forward, with Jared at ESD, to go forward with Square. They have no minimum amounts, as far as what we have to process. There's no contracts, and startup is minimal, very zero cost that we can get to. So at this point, what we're planning to do, he, on an existing iPad we had, he's downloaded the Square app, and that's what we can use. Just deciding whether we want to go with the Square reader where we actually have contactless and chip. So where we have the option to accept like Apple Pay and Google Pay versus just an actual swipe strip, which would be free. But other than that, just determining that and then how we can set it up, as far as the fee and be ready to go by the first high school basketball concessions. We'll be ready this weekend for alumni. And then again, just really making sure that adult supervision has to happen in the concession area, as well as with cash and processing the credit cards. It's just going to happen every year that comes in.
So is that something that we need to have like dedicated adults that go through a training and sit down with you like, hey, this is how it works, this is what we're doing, right? That way the onus on the adult, well, I'm doing it different. No, Sherry sat down with you. She said, this is the SOP, follow the SOP. And go that route, that would have dedicated people that are actually participating. Say somebody, a group shows up and not have one of those adults, great, you don't get part of your group. Or is there something like that?
We haven't discussed this. We haven't got there yet, but we'll set up a protocol, based on, the security and liability of if somebody actually handling the card. If somebody handed a card, hopefully we have a card reader, they slide the card, we don't have to touch it.
And that's kind of why I'm leaning just towards the contactless, like it's just out there, they touch, go, it goes down.
Yeah, so it limits our liability if we set it up that way, I think. But there'll be some So we've kind of been a little loosey-goosey about the cash end of it and without pointing fingers, I don't think it's right to point fingers. I just think the reality is we have a 12-year-old that's handling cash. I think that's a dangerous place to live. As a school district, we need adults handling cash.
Is it just gonna be, are you guys gonna kind of pilot and see how it goes with just concessions and anything else at this point?
At this point, it would just be concession. I would see us using it like a picnic, so like greenhouse, assuming everything goes, if there was like a large fundraiser type of thing. But yeah, so pilot starting with this, and this may work fine. I mean, we're already looking at budgets, so moving to In Touch may not be an option next year. So it may be, additional, $9 contactless set of payments to different accounts. I mean, that may be what we're looking at. So, but this will just give a trial run. It'll also be how much use it gets too. So,
We'll have some data.
Is there a cost to operate that system?
no, that's why I'm kind of going with Square. Their charges are a little bit higher, but we're not locked into anything.
What do you mean by charges?
So to use it, there's, it's 2.6% of the
Service.
transaction amount plus 15 cents, which, will either program to automatically calculate in, or we will just set an amount, like if it's between $2 and $10 you charge, it's 50 cents added. If it's 10 to 20, there's a set amount added. So that,
We'll be doing like gas stations do. You'll have a cash price, you'll have a card price. And then, so what cards are we gonna accept?
they accept Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express, and then with the contactless one, they could do Apple Pay or Google Pay. And it's deposited by next day.
It's a pretty good deal. And it's it's just one more thing we have to manage, that's all. So, but we're going cashless, everybody's going cashless, now we're talking about card readers for using Bitcoin. Go in and pay for something using Bitcoin. So, I mean, not to throw that into this conversation, but everybody's going cashless.
What happens when we have somebody come in and buy something of a disposable nature? And then when the bill comes to their parents, because if it's a kid that did it, and the parents deny the charge. What are we gonna do then?
They can't deny the charge.
Yeah, they can.
No, the kid.
They could dispute it, yeah, like it's a whole
They can
different
dispute it with the
process.
company, but not with us.
Yeah, they have to dispute their
It's
face.
not like they don't check.
Well, that's, if somebody used my card and I didn't authorize them to use it.
That's between the card company and the card owner, not the school district. We don't want to get in that position. I don't know.
The end of the day, you would lose the money, but they're gonna have a derogatory mark on their credit for disputing charge. But that's doing business anywhere. You accept cards, you're gonna deal with that no matter what.
Or down, true.
And I honestly don't see somebody disputing a $5, $10, $8 charge, but maybe. I mean, if it was 500, that's a different deal.
Yeah.
That's why you get adults running it.
What actually gets charged and somebody doesn't get a bill for $50? Dollars that shows up,
Yeah.
yes.
Our grill fees are only $4.
Well, the nice thing about Square is, if you've used it before, a lot of times your phone number is saved to your card number. So like, no matter where I go, if I use a Square, I automatically get a receipt. Because it just saved with my card that I have with the Square, it just knows. And so it doesn't matter where I go, I always get a receipt myself. So I think the risk for that part is really low. You're not gonna have a lot of disputes. And if a dispute came through that was valid, it would just come out of the school district bank account and share with the.
Hopefully it's enough positive that you can use it not here.
Right, exactly. It's something else.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. Any other questions on that? 6.1, was the elections. Packet the candidates.
Do you want to talk about, you heard these people at our legislative update speak.
It's very interesting. I think there's one viable candidate that I would support, and that would be Nathan. The other two were definitely not from the other room.
Not from what?
Not from the upper row. So, take that for what it's worth, but they were definitely from that South County area.
Big you are.
Yes. And I think we can nominate our own person. Right, we have to select these three.
You can.
Not, we're looking for a nomination.
We nominate Nathan Gable.
Or we go on voting. So what does, I guess, what do these candidates in general have to do with our?
They are on a committee that responds and looks at all the legislative actions that the state is working with. They work with committees, other members from all over the state. And they discuss what we want to lobby for with the legislature, what actions the legislature is going to do and bring back the information to the districts. They get definitions of what is happening in Salem and bring back that kind of information for the lobby group, and they stand for what OSBA projects as the direction for the.
You sound like you're not.
So do all the districts then within our area vote? And then you go back with it, they go back.
They've
with
got
all numbers?
regions, and this
Yeah.
region that we're in,
Right.
this guy is.
That's my
with the
question. So we're voting for our, well, who we think we want, but then all the other districts, and they're gonna compile the vote.
We have one vote, even one school district has
Just
one
one.
vote.
Yeah, and then so then they compile, and that's how they decide. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, makes sense.
I ran twice, lost both times to Ashley.
A lot doesn't surprise me.
They have three votes. within
The
the
nice
same
thing
area,
about it.
Right.
Is it gets some recognition.
Yeah.
You get prospects name out there. Then when you walk into a meeting of the OSBA, they know you're from Prospect and they start asking your small school information and policies and get a little bit of input from it. There's also a small schools caucus that I need to look at. Everything on the attend.
And,
Rural caucus.
and Josh, you said you listened to all of them.
I did. Nathan was good. He was very funny at the end, and then the other two kind of came off because the one candidate here, Richie, I believe he maybe just graduated high school. Yeah.
They looked pretty young.
Yeah, and it was
I mean, the employer.
Very- very functional that way. Nathan talked about a lot of his experience, but he's done anyway. So he's very articulate. And Daniel didn't talk very much. He was kind of telling everybody, yep, and he's kind of said, oh, hey, by the way, we do.
Okay,
So,
got it. Well, I second, Ray, for Nathan.
motion is second to nominate Nathan for the first of the policy group for nominations. Questions of the debate. We will start with Ms. Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yeah,
and voting yes, Mr. Rose. Yes. Ms. Williams.
Yeah.
And so these policies are a batch of required or highly recommended policies to vote. I went through and matched to kind of what we currently have. And we can run through them better.
Yep.
So looking at the budget committee policy, we want version 2, which is really close to what we have right now. Minus, they do change their makeup of the board. How do people look like them? Starting out organization membership in terms of office, we have a 5-year term. The term, and then we keep that next set of brackets, the term is when members of the budget committee will bring a budget, what's exactly happening now. In that next section, majority of the constituted may require for action for a 10-member budget committee, which is 5 board members, and then 5 community members, and 6 for forum. We keep that portion. And then it goes into, when you want to talk about the equity. So new language we only choice on is that at least one member of the budget committee must be a member of the district's educational equity advisory committee. This we're going to talk about last month. We talked
Couple
about
months ago.
and the new site committee.
Yeah, so we have an equity committee that's under the supervision now of the superintendent, so the school board. It's not a standalone committee, we have rolled that into our leadership committee. So we have a standing agenda item every time our leadership group gets together. Technically, we should have a budget committee member on it. The struggle with that, obviously, when somebody cover that meeting. So if there is a space, if we do have a budget committee member that would like to be part of it, they can.
I think it's supposed to, well, I think it's either way, but I think it's one of the committees has to be on the budget. committee.
Yeah,
So
yes. But the way I read it that they have to be on the equity committee too, you know?
yeah, they have to be a dual purpose.
Yeah.
Someone from that committee has to be on the vote.
Right.
But in order to be on the budget committee, you have to district boundaries, like prospect, be an elector, what you're asking, right? So. And I think that brings that. That's followed GIB, really isn't a lot of choice to get here, but so if you look at new board, when you look at it, if it's highlighted or gray, and that's included language by law changes. Their strikers or language that also changed due to law changes. If it's in brackets, then we get to make a decision. And there really isn't any brackets until you get down to page 410. Which would be the end of section 4, beginning of 5. Our current policy has within the brackets the administrative principal and me. And then 5C, we have the controller general and all those titles in it as well. And the next set of brackets are page 8 and 10. And those with our current policy are still 10 and 10 all the way through on that page. And that is the end of that portion. So if you're here, any of these.
We were doing 10 instead of 8.
The current policy has the bottom. And if we start changing some according to 8, it'd be consistent. The current policy for 10. Move back here and just give you my idea of what it should be if you have any comments. So. Disclosure statement doesn't have any changes to it. And the IIAs, these are going to be very one and very monotonous. Because most of them are complete changes to everything that we do, and we don't have a policy on it. So, in working with the top of IIA, we have that first bracket and the material showing the increasing population represented for the society. And they took out that second portion, which is the process materials we started out. There's the definitions all the way through every one of these policies on RS 3726011A to B. We have IE, Native Americans, European. I just recommend, I would think about taking that out, which we keep everywhere. And that way, the law changes, we just go well, RS says, that section. And then the following section, 65950, is almost the exact same thing. And that's being repeated 5 more.
Follow what we do by statute.
Yeah, just end it there, just follow the statute, and when in doubt, build the statute.
And then they can change the statute, we don't have to change the policy.
Although I'm sure we will. So I don't have to know.
Yeah,
So in the middle of I four, the policies not available, classroom activities, complaints regarding classroom activities and under those materials. I think that's currently within our current policy on the bachelor sector. The next page has 4 instructional materials, page 2, 4. I remove, so I think we should remove the word as me and the supporter change with the word improved instructional materials. Using the school district and authorized the superintendent, that is our employee. I think that should be a superintendent duty. People like we will. And I don't believe that we, consistent with our other policies of having students on the communities that will decide what's being taught and not being taught. So I would take those students as well. Yeah, I like that for administrative recommendations. Yeah, I agree. Is instructional material on a 7-day cycle, 7-year cycle?
yes,
The next bracket needs to be, there is the rule in there from the adoption textbook for American District Government, the WRS, specifically American District Government have to do X, Y, and Z. And that way, there's a little extra caveat for civics and all of the other more inclusive in the district. And at the end, all requests for consideration for materials may be considered in the administrative regulation, which will take you on this, the top of page 34 as well. And then the supplemental material, keeping features, principles like during together being appropriate, which may not be a very formal selection process. This is going to get into technical, who's on the review committees, consideration committees, and all that. So keep it informal as possible and functional for everyone. The same bracket of those school library material and also school library materials. All requests will go through AR4 and library materials, no formal social procedures, and also follow AR4 based on. So if you want to cover instruction materials, so this will be AR number 1. Reason the exact same like you're reading with IE. Then invariably just need it to RSVP. There is that 3rd paragraph, the bracket, the meeting and selection committee for core instruction material will follow public meeting law. My first thought was to strike it, but later it kind of forces you to go down that path anyway. So what do you think? My thought was, she have that much authority to pass the public law, or policies or something else like that.
I go either way. I think it makes sense to go through recommendation and just like it shows up.
And then that next paragraph on is choosing to adopt from instructional material which are not state approved will follow others. And then supplemental material, teaching finding and others is deemed appropriate and collaborates part of the discussion or stuff.
That's actually coming from grants past. Adopting materials that are on the state approved list. They're struggling with both over there, so they have to follow little RS, which there's still some rules. So
At the top of 2, 3 would be getting rid of the definition of the RS. Like before, I'm saying that school library here, bring the definition. And get rid of the definition, the last page 3. We'll talk about that. Now to the reconsideration of instructional materials. In A or 1A, it should be the principal and then the principal. I got rid of, I thought they were properly makes sense because how do you define properly? And then B also keeping the principal, and then including the staff members most directly involved use. Keeping the 15 days, and then C 1 Q the principal, so the D. Make a pile in the next page, keeping principal. And then number 2. It's keeping A, staff member of the district, or parent guardian. And this is where I got where student earlier, because some of the other policies we have they take away the students' ability to file complaints on their own stuff. So keeping those strikeouts, but keeping A and is. C would be, board designee, and then in D, it should be, so my thought is making a 5-person board, which is 2 teachers, 1 administrator, and 2 members of the community who want to serve on the committee, appointed by the board, either the word, I don't think it's standard thing, I don't think it's something that I'm going to use that often here. So if it comes up, then it can be appointed by the board, so appointing people do it.
Do we have to have it appointed by the board, or can the superintendent just pick the committee and go with it?
I don't know, it made, it was odd that they wanted to work, so we could just strike out. And we strike out annually by the board to stay, express the concern.
I mean, the board has to approve what we adopt anyways.
Yeah.
So, it would make sense, I would think to be really well.
Yeah, just give her that second bracket appointed and annually by one.
Yep.
And then, of course, I struck out 5, which is, a student eligible annually.
Do we even have a librarian?
Me? And the library says,
But he'll be an administrator. on it.
you asked the question, and I told you the
Oh,
truth.
this is the librarian.
Well, you said 2 teachers, 1 administrator, 2 members.
Yeah, so I struck out the librarian because it's not functional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a library science degree. Believe it or not.
So it'd be 1, 3, and 4.
That's 4 members, but you're saying 2.
So that's what you're.
I do, I have a library science degree. Yep.
Because,
And that gives you a 5-person board, which
Yeah.
is more advanced with what we can do anyway, instead of not even.
okay, this girl says a whole time getting volunteer.
I would hope this never gets used, but there's gonna be 7 more iterations of this, so. And then, of course, there's the caveat at the end, right, reconsideration committee may include other designated first-term discussions which relate to unrepresented groups of protected classes, I think we should do that. And the selection committee will administer consider material, which is subject to the request for reconsideration. I mean, it's not a standing committee, it's here, it has a question, answers the question. In 3, select the chair and the secretary, and the chair of the chair of the committee will not be an employee of the district, and the secretary will be the employee of the district. And then 3, I would keep, and 5, I would keep. Bottom of 3.5 is begin giving the definition, is keeping the state law, and then that next bracket, keep the reconsideration. Committee will consider material suitability in context which request is considered what's made, it's not a task, it's just, here's the question, here's the question. And that, will keep the 45 days for when report issue. And once the decision is made, it'll be forwarded to, the superintendent of the board of 45 days. And in 4, board review, keep it 30 days, regular else if they wanted. And then in the footnote, I think you have to strike a 1.6 number committee is 4 and 4 and 8 places. That's just. And the last page, I put the request for consideration for material will not be accepted for at least 2 calendar years following issuance of a decision on the site. We tried it and it's not going to. AR number 3. Reconsideration supplemental instructional material. Again, in 1, give it a principal. May include staff members for 15 days. The principal staff member for days. State process. See, a principal and random selection. I will strike from a tool of previously applied as individuals. I'm sure it's not going to.
Exactly.
And then the reconsideration thing, I think it has to be 5, 2 teachers, no librarian, no administrator, 2 members of the community, 25 people. And that's what's weird about this. The other committees are appointed by the board and superintendent. This one is appointed by the principal.
Yeah.
So I think it's, well, it was designed for our school district, multiple principals and multiple buildings. But this doesn't-
If you're also the student up and everything.
I think that's probably. And I keep that second paragraph of consideration. May include equity, I don't mind for the, so for the. And that next bracket, I would delete. And then keep the committee with the special administrator to consider the chair of the secretary last week.
Is there really any reason if they're optional that we even need it? Of all those ARs?
That's you. So all the ARs are for different things, for different questions.
Right.
So do you need them? No, I think we can get rid of all of them, but OSBA would probably say we have to have something.
They're
Because
optional.
what if someone comes and says, hey, we want you to ban this book or this material, what is our process to review it?
Yeah.
This gives us a process to review.
We
it.
have that process right now in policy. For review of book. There is a policy that you just fill out a form and to review materials that's currently in a policy. This is an updated version of that policy,
Yeah, 'cause
but
we don't
it's
have any policies near like this.
not scripted like that. But if these are required, they'd be required, and they're not, they're optional.
They're out, I get it.
Well, that's my.
Go and carry it all
Well, I
done.
think less
These
is
are
more.
redundant.
Yeah, I think less is more. I also think that weeding something out of the library, there's a lot of different ways you can tackle that based on a collection development policy and what you're using.
But I think these are geared towards family not wanting that sex ed book.
Right,
And they want that book instead.
Right. Right. for curriculum.
Yeah, for curriculum, what's available there. I mean, I did not enjoy reading them all, so we
Well,
could get
that's why
all of them for
So
sure.
that's why there's a public comment process to instructional materials. That's why there's a committee that heads it up. I'm just playing devil's advocate. I mean, regardless of where the board lands on this, I'm good with whatever, but it sometimes they're spelling out every single thing. And if it's optional, I think it becomes the more, it's too much. Personally.
Once you write it in stone, you're obligated to follow the stone.
Yep, exactly.
But sometimes it's hard to get it out of the stone.
Right. I just throw it out there. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to throw a wrench in the spoke. I just.
Good for me.
We have one, I don't think we should have.
There's 6 ARs here that are completely optional. We have instructional, I mean, if you adopted 2A. Highly recommended instructional materials. We have and that covers the committee and the process of the committee. And the board has to approve it and there's public comment on the materials. I don't know why we would need anything more than that.
Which one's the right one?
So the highly recommended is 2A. So
AR2?
no ARs, just,
Oh, IA.
yeah.
Yeah, and that covers, I mean, we have to amend that just to look here at the other ARs, so we do that. It includes that makes it a problem.
To me, it does, but
Is there a way can we motion to accept what's required and get rid of what's optional?
We just don't have to accept it as a first reading. We don't have to do anything with it. So the first reading is just going through and marking it up.
Right.
And then it goes back out to the public. The second reading is, yeah, we just have one formalize it. So in this case, we would just not adopt them as a first reading. And then it's essentially dead anyway, but we have to make up some changes to IIA. So if that's really important, I am not opposed to doing that. The only one we currently have, we don't have, well, we have an AR, but the AR is full and the opposite of what we give these stuff. I'm good with grabbing AR, so.
I'm good with grabbing
Me too. Less than more.
So then IIA at the top, you just have to scratch, 1 and 2, 4. the request for reconsideration, we just scratch that portion. And then, that top of 2.5 or 3.4, we have this garage. No.
I don't even think you need to amend IIA because it covers the material involved for reconsideration request for the main available to reconsideration process. Well, that process can't be discriminatory, and it's a request for reconsideration is established procedures found in the administrative regulations. We just go to the AR.
So you're saying get rid of GLO.
Well, I guess I am,
Yeah, so we get rid of ARs, all we're doing, I guess, is removing the reference to an AR. At the bottom of 2.4, it says all requests for reconsideration for materials may be requested under administrative regulation AR2.
Are you on
Just get rid of that.
IIA?
Yeah.
Are you looking at IIA?
Yeah, page 204, 204.
The bottom.
2.4 at the very bottom, the very last line.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
You just have to get rid of that line, because there's no ARs if we're not going to.
Yep, that's all you'd have to do.
And then I think at the top of 3.4, you keep the first bracket, but delete after the criteria period, see administrative regulation AR6, and just get rid of that and just say, the district may choose to independently adopt the materials which are not state was approved using state approved such.
Yep.
Period.
Right.
Get rid of everything else.
Yep.
Supplemental, we have to get rid of the AR reference, the supplemental construction material.
Yep.
And also in state school library material, we have to get rid of the
Yeah, also, too.
and then the bottom of the last week, we have to get rid of the AR.
Yep.
And then scratch it.
That's easy.
That's a 15 page.
That's easy. Yeah.
And that takes us to IKF. Mission requirements. Currently, you get rid of. You get rid of the header note, I guess, in the graduation requirement, which is notice to us and what we're doing. And then at the top of page 3.9. As a student completing international baccalaureate organization, ID the program, you count that. That is not in our current policy, but I'm seeing what added or not
I don't think we want it added because we don't offer that.
Okay.
So we have 3 diploma options. This just covers state diploma. So from my standpoint, we eliminate that. Strike it.
And I think, at the bottom of 5.9. There's the essential skills, and we currently have the district allow ELL students and the essential skill appeals to establish an appeal process. Well established appeal process, follow board policy KL is what we currently. We have both of them. It's 9, certificate of attendance. We currently have maintained full regular time attendance for 4 years, being 9. We have 1, 2, and 3. Other district responsibilities. The first paragraph, the district provides age appropriate development of appropriate policy instructions. Health record, JO. Policy. And what you do, what you have to carry, you don't carry the social report. We only trust we have on patient of 10. And it's up at 5, we have administrative, critical adjustment, shall be first responsible. No, you can add in person. And then C, we have the US controller. So that's the. And we have been policy JOA. There's a lot of things that there's no change, no decisions on it, it's just a good law, so that's what we do. That's it.
To first readings. Thanks for going through those.
We found 6.40, there we.
The state asked us, I should have one for everybody, to redo the integrated plan report. So it can be in the meetings correctly. So what you're, if you were here last time that I did this, it's almost exactly the same, except that, and we'll go through it real quick, so it's in the meeting notes. Except that I added a slide for, you asked for multiple years of data, just set it in there so you can build it. I'm gonna explain that we're just reflecting on everything and that I was pleased to find that all of our data is really positive. So it's looking at the 23-24 school year. We exceeded all of our goals for that time period. And it covers all of the longitudinal performance growth targets. And I'm going over this quickly because most of us were in the room before, so stop me if you have a question or if you want a longer explanation. What I think is really kind of neat is if you flip to the one that has several years on it, our actual numbers are higher than our target, which we have not gotten the data for yet. So we're making really good progress. We had the same drop that most school districts had because of the pandemic through most of our metrics. But we have been stepping them up. So although some things are, as far as the ODE is concerned, we need to work on attendance rates. All of our goals along that path have been met.
We exceeded. Right.
And same information about how we answered the questions for our outcomes and strategies, that we have a grad coach, that we have a skills trainer, that we have counseling, we have advisory courses, that focusing on helping our ninth grade on track is coming in really good. We can see our grad rate also reached that high level. That kind of thing. And then on the final page, rather than break out all of everything down to the last penny, it's a summary by category of how we're spending the money. High school success money goes for part grad folk, for distance learning, and CTE equipment, and project-based learning supplies, the student investment account, more of the grad coach, our portion for Project Plus, again, the counseling, skills training, some of the community engagement money, like getting things rolling so that we're building a relationship with the communities and share data easily with them. It's not a sudden thing for them. Like the teachers, academic screeners, summer school, and our awesome new engagement.
How does this budget get affected by budget reductions?
It's coming. We've already, the state's already given us those numbers on what the cuts are. With SIO, and early literacy. So, and we've reduced those budgets already. We had some things in the literacy that we funded some summer school transportation and stuff. We're looking at moving some money around to backfill some of those goals, but we're gonna feel it in the SIA. I think we're gonna just, but we're lucky. because we didn't got a huge amount of money. There's some districts that lost $2 million that are in the county. It's significant. So, but because of our pool was smaller, we were able to Sherry's the master trying to figure out how we backfill those holes.
So right now, there's no functional footprint for the kid first. So do we need to accept this, or you guys be reported?
It just has to be reported, I believe. I'm not, are we good? No, not at all. It was a technicality thing that they wanted to get done. It's not a big deal, but I did go really fast, so if you have questions about the information.
And it'll be, the minutes will be posted on the website with this report. And as well, so it's on the web page, so that's what part of the So what happened was is they combined the projects director report with the integrated program report. You can have that look in the state.
Right, they went to look for it, it was on the agenda, they looked at the agenda and said, but no, there's no notes here, you didn't do it, and like, but we did.
And it was in the minutes as well.
Oh, we need something to disclose.
That's all.
Here.
Well, no, not at all.
Good report, it was good stuff.
Yeah, there is some good stuff on there, and I hope the board recognizes some of the efforts that have been made by our staff. Tim Crease, and I remember having a conversation in a board meeting here 2 years ago about direction and where we can see some growth things happen and some things moving on the district. But we're not even near where we need to be, but I think when we get apples to apples over some longitudinal time, I think it's pretty exciting to see some of the things that she reported in the case. So, we're good.
Have any more questions? We're looking at the upcoming events, we have a board breakfast on Friday, that's
Did 8:30, right? Yes.
Yes.
8:30 to 10:30.
Don't look at Jay's calendar. 8:30 to 10:30.
8:30.
No. Then there's conferences, high school basketball starting, Thanksgiving break, which I'm sure the kids are totally looking forward to. And then that's board meeting on Sunday night. We'll go up at 7:52, we'll adjourn the meeting.
Yes, I-